From KGW News, this is Straight Talk with Laurel Porter.
Hello and welcome to Straight Talk. I'm Laurel Porter. Ballots go out in Oregon for the upcoming general election in just a few weeks, and this one will be especially historic for the city of Portland. Voters will choose who they want to lead the city as mayor into a new era of city government. In January, the city will transition away from the old commission form of government to a different system, one with a mayor and city administrator. And they'll be working with a brand new 12-person city council. In this episode of Straight Talk, we meet two of the leading mayoral candidates. Neither has served in elected office, and they consider being an outsider a benefit. You'll hear from Portland businessman Keith Wilson and Lee Vostis, who describes herself as an artist, stripper, writer, musician, and actress. We'll meet Lee in our next segment. First up, Keith Wilson. Wilson is a businessman. He owns Titan Freight, the state's first fossil fuel-free trucking company. He's an environmental leader and the founder of an innovative nonprofit, Shelter Portland, that works to end unsheltered homelessness. Wilson grew up in Portland and attended Oregon State University and got his master's in business at the University of Portland. He says Portland needs real change on issues of homelessness, housing, and crime. He says voters can't keep electing the same failed city politicians, and he'll bring a new approach. Welcome to my guest, candidate for Portland Mayor, Keith Wilson. Welcome to Straight Talk. It's great to have you here.
Great privilege. I appreciate this. I've watched you for years, and this is quite a nice honor.
Well, thank you, Keith. As I mentioned, you don't have any elected office experience, and running a city, being an elected official is a little different than running your own business. What can you point to that qualifies you to be Portland's next mayor?
Qualifications. So in my executive experience, it's a record of success. So the business that I built is the safest, most innovative, and environmentally progressive freight company in the nation. So you hit on all those items as well. You know, I ran for city council 4 years ago, so I saw the city change before my eyes. So I've really been immersing myself in understanding the community and the needs. As a community leader, I've really focused on lifting up the voices of others, and I'm vice chair of Word is Bond, and we're an organization that focuses on mentoring Portland's future leaders. And you said it at the top of the point. I founded Shelter Portland. It's a nonprofit that strives to end unsheltered homelessness, and then legislatively, I've been working in politics as a change maker, and I've led bipartisan legislation for clean air and clean transportation. In fact, I passed a bill last year in the legislature with unanimous support. All Republicans and all Democrats voted for it. So it's a real varied level of experience, but it really hits on many of the things that I'll need to become and be a successful mayor for Portland. One of your top priorities, and it goes to the fact that you have this nonprofit, Shelter Portland, is to end unsheltered homelessness in Portland. We've heard, though, that promise and pledge many times before from candidates and elected city officials. Why should voters be confident that you can be successful where others have not? You know, looking back, our most recent mayor said he's going to end unsheltered homelessness in 2 years. So what you see the difference is that you're being told what they're going to do rather than shown what they've done. So I've been traveling around the nation working with city mayors, county officials, and federal officials, and I've got this relationship, and now I've created Shelter Portland to bring 10 of those national leaders to help me with a blueprint. And to give you some examples, in Boise today, they have 115 unsheltered people living on the street. In Boston, they have 119. In Portland, we have 5,394. And so I asked the question, what do they know that we don't know? And these team of leaders, many of them who've ended unsheltered homelessness in their cities, helped me with a roadmap. And they all have what we don't. They have a network of nighttime emergency shelters. We closed all of ours in 2017. So I started determining and researching how do we set them up. And then we realized we need day shelters. So I started opening up day shelters because we need to connect people with services. And then what that will allow us to do is enforce our community safety laws. So the law requires us to have a number of beds in the community that matches the number of unsheltered, or you're not able to enforce your laws. So by caring for everybody, setting up that network, we get to enforce our no camping laws, our sanitation laws, our no RVs. But in so doing, we're simply providing care for everybody, not only the unhoused, but we're able to improve livability for all Portland residents, including the housed. And so we get back to that most livable city in America again, by providing basic care, but in a network of nighttime emergency shelters quickly and immediately.
So you think that you can end unsheltered homelessness, I think I've read this, by the end of next June?
Yeah.
That's less than a year away, and
You know,
only 6 months after you would become mayor.
Yeah, the interesting thing is the mayor of Boise, who's a friend now, he ended unsheltered homelessness in only a matter of a few years after losing a seminal court case called Martin versus Boise. He stood up those shelters. He did what's called a surge, and today Boise is one of our nation's leaders in unsheltered homelessness. But I'll tell you, Mayor Bud Clark did the same plan I'm proposing in the 80s and 90s. He stood up a network of nighttime emergency shelters, and we used to have one of the lowest unsheltered rates in the nation. It's kind of like going back to the future. But I've got a team of experts who've already done it. They're on my team. We've done the research. We've got the team. We have shelters we've set up, and now we've got the roadmap. And with my executive experience, I can lead the project successfully.
Well, some have criticized your plan as overly ambitious and naive. I know you've heard that a consultant for one of your a consultant for one of your opponents told the Willamette Week that it's a mistake that CEOs turned candidates often make. That being in elected office is different than running a business. Running a business is more like captaining a private speedboat,
right.
They said, and running a city is more like being the captain of an ocean liner. It takes more time, more space. It's complicated. Do you agree with that?
Somebody said that Portland's not an ocean liner. It's more of a dilapidated barge that's not running well. So I would challenge Portland and say, they criticize that my plan is ambitious, but I will tell you, it's not ambitious when we're simply using proven plans that other cities have employed. That's not ambitious. It's not ambitious leaving our citizens on the street with no resources. As mayor, I'm in charge of public safety. We have to act to care for all citizens, but then we improve livability. And it's not ambitious to expect accountability and results for the hundreds of millions of dollars that we're wasting. That's not ambitious. Those are the requirements of the mayor to reduce that waste, but then to make sure nobody is being left behind and raising the community up to the standards that we expect the mayor to deliver.
We'll talk about ambitious plans. The city has an ambitious plan to address climate change and eliminate greenhouse gases by the year 2050 and reduce by half below 1990 levels by the year 2030, which is only just over 5 years away. What would you do as mayor to move the city closer to meeting that goal? So to be clear, we are to reduce our emissions, our CO2, by 4 million metric tons by the year 2030. We're at 8 million right now, so in half. So we have to go back to a leader who has a record of success. So you said at the top of the hour, we've reduced at the company I own and operate, we don't use a single gallon of fossil fuels in my Portland fleet. So right now it is arguable I have the lowest carbon footprint carrier in the nation. So my goal as mayor is to become the mayor of the city with the lowest carbon footprint in the nation as well. I have the first fleet of heavy-duty electric trucks, extremely hard to do. We have DC fast chargers, the first ones in the Northwest. We have one of the most extraordinary operating platforms that have reduced emissions. In fact, it's one of our core values, sustainability. Every decision we make is wrapped around sustainability. And as our mayor, that core value is going to simply transport over from the private to the public, and that's going to be every decision we make will be wrapped around that. Well, as you know, the voter is also really concerned about public safety. So as mayor, would you see yourself in charge of the police bureau and the police chief, or do you think that would be a role of a city administrator? And if you're in charge, who would you like to hire as police chief? Yeah, we're changing the whole form of government, but the police chief reports to the mayor specifically. I've always operated at a high level with the organizations I've been a part of. They've always been complex, but we've always overachieved or met our key performance indicators. As far as our police force goes, let's just back up and see what they're responding to, public safety. 10 years ago, when you called for a priority one response from an officer, they showed up in 6 minutes. Today, it's 24 minutes, 4 times more. We are less safe as Portlanders right now. And then we look at, well, what are those officers reporting on? 50% of all arrests in any given year are of the unsheltered. Do you see how it gets back to that system? End unsheltered homelessness, reduce the burden on our overloaded public safety system. Now we get to get back to community policing. We bring back our traffic division. We bring back our property crime division. We get to investigate graffiti and illegal dumping. We get to really start focusing on the quality of life for everybody. But
We don't have an overburdened police force. And public safety also addresses fire. Our fire bureau, 80% of their call outs are to the unsheltered. They are absolutely burnt out. When I ride with them and meet with them, we've got to right-size our public safety system quickly.
Would you ask Chief Day to stay on?
At this point, I have a meeting with him next week. I've heard nothing but great things about Chief Day. I think that experience is going to be critical for me to be successful as mayor. I need our public safety officials to be solid, to be the comfort, to be trust. And from right now, what I've seen, Laurel, I've seen an awful lot of trust in Chief Day.
The governor's top priority has been creating more affordable housing.
Yeah.
What would you do as mayor to make Portland more affordable and more desirable?
3 things. First of all, home share. We need to incent opening up homes that have extra rooms. We have 190,000 empty rooms in the homes we have. We have a affordability crisis. A home share room starts at $700. A high school kid or a retiree on a fixed income has a chance to live in the city that they either retired and or grew up in. We have to figure out office to residential conversions. The Biden administration just provided $10 billion in free money. Let's go get it. We have a $3 million credit for a building if they use it for earthquake retrofit. And I'm saying, why are we requiring only earthquake retrofits? We have so many open Class A buildings. If a developer needs funds, and they already have the earthquake retrofit, let's provide the money for them. Let's get developers developing. Instead of putting blinders on these programs, let's get our placemaking, our visitors back, and our residents into that downtown and revitalize our urban core. That's one way. And then our supportive services housing, we need to be able to use that for funding affordable housing every year instead of every 10 years.
I want to save enough time for you to have a final message, but so just 30 seconds for this question. But how do you envision the role between the mayor and the city administrator going into this new era?
I've heard Commissioner Rubio and Commissioner Gonzalez say that they're going to use the mayors as a bully pulpit. We don't need a bully in Portland. We need somebody who has a record of collaboration, working with our councilors, implementing the spirit of their policies in the city well, and a city administrative officer that has a record of success from other peer city brought in to help us in our new form of government.
Keith Wilson, I want to give you 30 seconds to 45 seconds for a final thought to share with our viewers.
Thank you. My opponents have had years to build a coalition and deliver results for our city, and they haven't. They've refused to follow proven plans that other cities have used to solve the most crucial issues that we now face. In turn, they've wasted hundreds of millions of dollars. And as a result, we've lost families and jobs and investments, and in some cases, worst of all, lives. It is time for us to focus on Portland's renaissance, and it is within our reach. And I'm hoping that you'll join me, and together we're going to repair, revitalize, and restore the city that we all love. And please go to my website, keithwilsonformayor.com, and I look forward to you joining me and really turning the corner on the Portland that we had to the new Portland that we all can again be the most livable city in America.
Keith Wilson, thank you for joining us here on Straight Talk. It's been a pleasure.
My pleasure.
And coming up next, we're going to hear from another mayoral candidate, Leave Ostis. We're back in 2 minutes.